Okay, the last time that we were here, I was talking about the adventures of Superman. George Reeves, television's original Superman, was a judo practitioner, and I basically got into how, during the first seasons of the show, he used to take out the villains with a right cross or a left hook or a right uppercut, and how in later episodes he started using Judo blows. I also talked about how Jack Larson as Jimmy Olsen in an episode called Semi-Private Eye, along with Elijah Cook Jr., used judo/jujitsu to take out two of the villains. And I got a lot of response, and some people asked me, did George himself ever do judo on the show? Well, sort of. He never used judo as Superman per se, because as Superman, of course, he never had to use judo. But there's an episode from the second season called The Golden Vulture, and in it, George, as Clark Kent, takes some liberties with his double identity. There's a scene where he puts a finger in a criminal's back, and the criminal says, "Take the gun out of my back," and George tells him, "It's not a gun, it's just a finger." And of course the criminal says, "I can tell the difference between cold steel and a finger." Later in the episode he breaks a chain and somebody goes, "Well, how did you do that?" And George's Clark tells him, "Well, stuff was rusted." Now, the scene that I'm talking about specifically, he really plays fast and loose with the secret identity, but in a way that kind of hides the fact that he's Superman. The scene in question, he's attacked by members of this band of modern day pirates on this ship, and what he does, he uses combat judo techniques, and what he's doing is he's avoiding the violence that's the criminals are directing at him. He's misdirecting it, which is the basic principle of judo. He's using his opponent's force against them, and in this way they're not striking him and then breaking their hands and realizing, hey, this guy must be Superman. He's avoiding the lunges. He's using the momentum, the force of their attack against him and throwing them. That way they can't tell. They can probably go, wow, this guy's pretty good at judo, but at the same time they don't know he's Superman. Later in the episode, of course, George does change into the Cape Crusader from Krypton, and he takes the villains out in a Superman-type manner. But it's interesting to watch him actually use combat judo techniques in this episode. So if you ever get a chance to watch this, if you want to pick up episodes of the old Superman show, they're out on DVD now. This one is well worth watching if you're a judo fan. Talk about martial arts friendly television series on American television during the 60s. Everybody automatically talks about the Green Hornet because it had Bruce Lee in it. But that really wasn't the most martial arts friendly show on TV. For one, Bruce Lee as Kato usually came in and his fights on that show lasted no more than 10 seconds or so. The thing was, when Bruce was on screen, this was something new that we saw as far as karate was back then. We saw the Judo blows. Every now and then somebody would throw a reverse punch or such, but when Kato was out there, he was kicking, and to us that was something exciting, it was exotic, it was something new. But to me, the most martial arts friendly television show back then was not the Green Hornet. It was actually the Wild Wild West with Robert Conrad. Now Conrad had been a boxer at one time, and blocks and the reverse punches, and he did, the television judo martial arts of the time, which consisted of, a reverse punch, a Judo blow, maybe Ippan-seonaji, Tomonaji, and but the way that he did it, you'd have to have been there. Because back then, despite what I said, Bruce Lee is Bruce Lee, and this was where he got his big first notices on the Green Hornet. But back then, if you were a kid or even adult, you'd be wondering who could win in a fight.
The sport of wrestling finds its way into the Everglades. Tommy Clark, veteran of the ring, is touring the local countryside and carrying his opponent with him. Said opponent is riding comfortably in the back seat. Whether you can see him or not, he's there. Let me at him. His professional name is Punch Drunk Percy. No, not because he'd make a good handbag. However, they just call him Allie for short. Come on, Allie, show a little pep, or there won't be any herring for breakfast. Good gracious, Allie, you ought to see a dentist. Your 84th bicuspid there on the left side's in terrible shape. Now, stick out your tongue and say ah. Ah. And now, how about a belt for the customers? It looks like this may be just a flop. That's fine, Allie. Just like the big time.
Another martial arts friendly television show from the 60s was Honey West. Now, I haven't seen episodes of this show for over 40 years, I believe, and they finally put these episodes out on DVD, and I couldn't remember just how well they covered their martial arts. Now, Honey West, played by Anne Francis, was a female private eye along the lines of a Diana Rigg or Honor Blackman from the Avengers, only Americanized. And Jean LaBelle worked on this show quite often. But Honey was using judo, she was using karate, and actually it was very believable. And on the show, her partner was played by John Erickson. He played a character named Sam Bolt, and he was an ex-Marine. And some of the techniques that Erickson used on the show were pretty authentic. There were a lot of arm locks, as well as the usual shoulder throw, stomach throw and such, karate chops, and he would blend this with, of course, American fisticuffs. And Anne Francis and her or stunt woman was a very adept also, and it made her movements rather sensual, to say the least. I remember being in high school and I had a friend that was on the wrestling team with me, a Mr. Gottlieb, and let us say that he really enjoyed that show, maybe a little bit too much. But that's another great show.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.